A 2023 study published in the journal Social Psychological and Personality Science found that single people, especially long-term single women, score significantly higher in self-sufficiency, personal growth, and psychological autonomy than their married counterparts. That sounds like a win, and in many ways, it is. But here's what that same body of research also found, and what almost nobody talks about. The longer a woman stays single, the more her brain quietly rewires itself. And some of those changes are empowering, but some of them, they are working against her in ways she cannot see. Stay with me, because today we're going deep into the psychology of long-term singlehood, the benefits nobody wants to admit, and the hidden side effects that most people are too afraid to say out loud. And by the end of this video, you will understand your own mind in a way most people never do. The brain on solitude. Let's start with what's actually happening inside the brain. When a woman chooses to stay single, not temporarily, but as a sustained lifestyle, her brain begins to adapt. Psychologists call this neuroplasticity. The brain is not a fixed organ. It rewires itself based on the life you live. And solitude, it turns out, is one of the most powerful rewiring forces in existence. Researcher Bella DePaulo at the University of California, Santa Barbara has spent decades studying single-by-choice individuals. Her findings challenge everything the culture tells us. People who are single long-term often develop extraordinary levels of self-knowledge, independence, and emotional regulation, skills that many people in relationships never fully build because they outsource those needs to a partner. Think of it like a muscle. If you never rely on anyone else to carry the weight, you become incredibly strong, independently, powerfully, quietly strong. But here's the thing about muscles. Overtrain them in isolation, and they stop knowing how to cooperate. Part 2. The hidden side effects. And this is where it gets psychologically fascinating and a little uncomfortable. Side effect 1. Hyperindependence. There is a point, and research shows it develops gradually, almost invisibly, where healthy independence tips into what psychologists call hyperindependence, a trauma-informed response where the brain begins to experience vulnerability itself as a threat. The woman who has built her entire psychological architecture alone begins to unconsciously reject connection, not because she doesn't want it, but because her nervous system has learned to read intimacy as a loss of control. Attachment theorist John Bowlby's foundational research on avoidant attachment maps this precisely. The longer emotional needs go unmet through partnership, the more the brain suppresses those needs entirely, until they feel like they've disappeared. They haven't disappeared, they've just gone underground. Side effect 2. Identity rigidity. Psychologist Erik Erikson identified one of the core developmental tasks of adulthood as intimacy versus isolation, the process of building deep, reciprocal identity through close relationships. When that process is bypassed long-term, something subtle happens. The self becomes extraordinarily defined, but also increasingly difficult to adapt. Here's the analogy. A tree that grows alone in an open field grows wide, strong, and impressively shaped. But plant that same tree in a forest, surrounded by others, and it learns to bend, to adjust, to reach in directions it never would have found alone. Long-term solitude can produce a self that is beautifully formed, but quietly inflexible. Side effect 3. The loneliness paradox. This is perhaps the most counterintuitive finding in the psychology of singlehood. A 2021 large-scale study found that while single people often report high levels of freedom and life satisfaction, a significant subset simultaneously report chronic low-grade loneliness that they struggle to even name. Not the acute loneliness of a bad night, but a slow, ambient ache, a sense that something is missing that they have stopped allowing themselves to want. Psychologists call this emotional suppression. And the research is clear. Suppressed emotional needs do not dissolve. They surface in other ways, in perfectionism, in overwork, in an increasingly narrow comfort zone that slowly shrinks the world down to a size that feels safe. Part 3. The integration. Now here is what the research actually concludes, and this is the part that matters most. None of this means that staying single is the wrong choice. That is not what the psychology says. What it says is this: the quality of your singlehood is everything. Psychologist Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs places love and belonging at the third tier, not because romantic partnership is mandatory, but because deep human connection is. The women who thrive psychologically in long-term singlehood are not the ones who eliminate the need for connection. They are the ones who consciously, deliberately, and courageously build it through friendship, community, chosen family, creative expression, and purposeful contribution. The psychological danger is not in being single, it is in being alone, and calling it a preference when it has quietly become a wall. So here is your question for today. If you are single by choice, and you are proud of that, as you should be, ask yourself honestly, is your independence building you or protecting you? Because there is a version of singlehood that is one of the most psychologically rich, free, and self-actualized ways a human being can live. And there is another version that is a beautifully decorated form of hiding. Only you know which one you're in. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next briefing.